Hello all. Sorry there was no video last Thursday, but things got really busy. I ended up having to be out of town at the end of the week, working absolutely, utterly insane hours, and had no time to get anything at all done. How insane, you might ask? Well, I was awake for 39 hours straight and worked 30 out of 48 hours over 2 days. So yeah, insane. Things have gotten a little bit better, and I'm hoping to do my best to get back on track, producing videos and podcasts, but fair warning, I might not get as much done through the end of the year as I have been. Figure I will finish off these videos from Ravi Zacharias Ministries on Tuesdays, and if I get a chance, I will do something else for Thursday. I appreciate your understanding. But anyhow, as we get toward the end of these videos, they finally start talking about a couple of classical arguments for God, in this case the argument from design. Of course, as we shall see, there is a lot to this argument, and a lot of unjustified assumptions made by theists over it. So let's get started.
The design argument for God's existence argues that there is an implicit and explicit design, order, purpose in creation that points to a creator, a purposer, a designer. You can't help but look at the existence of life on this earth and how strong the odds are, millions and millions to one, that everything aligned just perfectly.
Unfortunately, none of that can actually be demonstrated in the real world. This is a common claim made by many theists, but it contains some fundamental foundational errors. First off, how do you know that the universe was created? What are you going to compare it to? How did you come to the conclusion objectively? How did you test it to find out if it's actually true? And since there's no way of making this determination rationally, the whole question really becomes largely irrelevant. There simply is no evidence of creation. There's only confirmation bias. Theists who already believe in a creator, thus they are emotionally dedicated to finding reasons to believe in a creation. No one without that preconceived notion is going to find evidence that the universe was created. It just makes no sense. What our theist here fails to realize is there is no plan. Humanity was not the goal of reality. We're just the outcome. Had the situation been different, we would have been different too. But again, there's that preconceived notion that biases their views. Remove the bias, you make the views ridiculous.
Scientists are telling us today that life in this universe is balanced on a knife's edge. There are about 50 constants of nature, and if they were changed to the slightest degree imaginable, life would not be possible. And they are independent of each other, all these constants. And for them to have been put together, for them to have come together to allow life, seems to cry out for intelligence, for intelligence behind the whole process.
Nope. Again, you're wrong. We're here because the conditions were right for us to be here. If those conditions were different, either life wouldn't exist at all, or life would be different. Maybe there would be some intelligent slime mold sitting here thinking how perfect the universe is, perfectly balanced for their form of life. Bias, bias, bias. So many people think that they're special, but they really aren't. Life is an emergent property of the universe. It isn't the purpose of the universe being here. That idea is absurd in the extreme. Want proof? If human life is so essential, then why is the overwhelming majority of the universe deadly to our form of life? We can't live in space unaided. We can't live underwater unaided. We can't even live on the majority of the planet we call home unaided. So where is this design that you keep talking about? I just don't see it.
How far the Earth is from the Sun? It seems to be just the perfect distance. How far is the Moon from the Earth? It seems to be just the perfect distance for life to begin existing. Where exactly are we in our galaxy? Our galaxy is the Milky Way. We happen to find ourselves in just the right place for just the right amount of radiation to allow life to exist. Where are we in our solar system? It turns out we're being shielded by an asteroid belt, something we would need in order for life to exist. gravity has a wide range of constants where it could have been. It could have been one way, it could have been an entirely different way. And in fact, if we took the entire range of constants where gravity could have been set, and we turned that range into a ruler that expands the length of the universe, and we divide that up in 1-inch increments, so we're talking about a ruler, the length of the universe at 1-inch increments, gravity is exactly where it needs to be in order for life to exist. If it were 1 inch one way, everything would explode. If it were 1 inch the other way, everything would implode. And we're talking about gravity could have been anywhere on that ruler, this cosmic ruler. And so we have to conclude the best explanation, again, is that mind, which we have good reason to believe through the intelligent design argument, is tampering with this dial in order for life to exist.
And there we go again. How far is the Earth from the Sun? Well, it seems to be perfect with the unspoken "for us." It's that assumption that it was all made just for us, which is a ridiculous idea. We exist as we are because the conditions were right for us to evolve as we did. You'll notice that humanity wasn't the first life form to evolve on this planet. We were one of the more recent, following a huge number of other species, some of which worked, some of which did not. The idea that it was all put together for us is really quite bizarre, only put forward by people who insist on looking at reality entirely ass backwards. You can tell this just by listening. They don't talk about our life, they talk about life. They think that all life is the same as our life. But there's all kinds of other theoretical life forms based on other chemical compositions, which are perfectly compatible with different gravitational constants, etc. So, why aren't they talking about these other potential life forms? Because they don't care. They're only concerned with themselves, which comes off as quite self-centered and not at all realistic.
I think the beauty of art, the beauty of, say, the Grand Canyon of the Swiss mountains, or the intricacies of nature, including the way that everything holds together to sustain and validate life or sustain life, are so complex that, to me, I just cannot accept that could be purely random chance and necessity. I really, that takes more faith in my mind than to believe that there's a cosmic intelligence with goodness, power, and grace who designed something in which people made in his image could live.
Seriously, you're going to throw out supposed beauty as a claim? Beauty is subjective. What one person finds beautiful, another person might not, which really gets back to the pure and unadulterated emotionalism that we see among the religious. They want to live in a particular kind of universe, hence they see the things around them that look like that kind of universe and ignore the things that do not. It brings us back around to confirmation bias. They believe what they believe because they want it to be true, not because they're able to step back from their pre-existing beliefs and test it to find out if it actually is true. That's really why the structure of science is such that it constantly tests itself for bias, and where bias is found, it rejects it out of hand. Religion doesn't operate like that. Religion encourages bias, religion rewards bias, and religion punishes thinking outside of the theological box. That's why science comes to reliable conclusions with testable predictions that operate objectively outside of the mind of the observer. Religion has never once, ever proven itself to be capable of that.
What the intelligent design movement is saying is that we can identify messages in the world around us. We have the ability to say, okay, this message right here has come from an intelligent mind. Then we take what we've learned, we apply it to the world around us, and we say, wow, this world is the product of a mind. This isn't smuggling theism through the back door. This is just a fact. If we can determine that a mind is involved, and we see that a mind is involved in the universe around us, that's the conclusion. And we should take our conclusions and run with them, not try to predetermine what our conclusions should be. That's bad science.
No, it's the assumption that there are messages that cannot be objectively demonstrated. It's just more wishful thinking. If it was an objective message, then it could be demonstrated, such that it doesn't rely on the belief of the individual that sees it. But that's not how it works. You have Christians who say, this is a message from God. You have Muslims who say, this is a message from Allah. You have Hindus who say, this is a message from Krishna. And then you have science, who finds no evidence whatsoever that there are any messages at all. And which one of these can be objectively tested? It sure isn't the tall tales from any of the religious. Yet this guy takes exactly what religion does, predetermining beliefs and only looking for things that validate that belief, and then pretends that's not what religion does. If he wants to do what real science does, then you make an observation. You find objective evidence to explain the observation, you require direct causal links in your explanation, and you repeatedly test your explanation to find out if it holds up under critical scrutiny. Religion does none of these things. Instead, religion starts with an emotionally comforting answer, then seeks questions to which it can apply the answer, which must be accepted without question. So, how do these people determine that the universe was created by an all-powerful deity? Well, they don't. How did they test their conclusion? They didn't. How do they know it was their God? They have no clue at all. It's all blind faith, and blind faith, like it or not, it's fucking idiotic. And here I had such high hopes for these folks. Okay, that's a lie. I didn't. After watching all of these videos, it's become obvious that these are people who are just clueless lay people who don't know how to critically think about anything. They've taken a pre-existing belief that this God entity exists, and they're just moving from subject to subject, forcing that conclusion onto it. God exists because they insist that God exists. None of these videos exist to prove it. It's a foregone conclusion for these folks. They just want to explain why any idea actually fits in with their foregone conclusion, no matter how much they have to twist and warp reality to get it to fit. They aren't interested in truth. They're only interested in their emotional comfort, and the longer this goes on, the more obvious it becomes. Well, that's another one down. Just 3 more to go. Come back again next week for another one. I can pretty much guarantee you it won't be any more rational or intellectually valid than any of these others have been, but I guess we can hope. As always, share, subscribe, and comment below, especially if you're a theist who believes any of this nonsense and can provide the actual objective evidence that we require to take these claims seriously. It's okay. We know you can't, but maybe you ought to think about the failure yourself because, like it or not, it means something. So until next time, stay sane because somebody out there has to.